Some people are incredibly intelligent. They work hard. They have opportunities. They have potential. And yet, they never seem to achieve the results they're truly capable of. Meanwhile, there are others who appear completely ordinary. Nothing exceptional on the surface. But somehow they consistently make better decisions. They make fewer costly mistakes. And over time, they elevate their lives to an entirely different level. Most people assume the difference is knowledge, or talent, or luck. But the truth is far more unsettling, because many times, your greatest enemy isn't another person. It isn't a competitor. It isn't bad circumstances. It's your own mind. The very mind you trust more than anything else. The same mind making thousands of decisions every single day. The same mind constantly convincing you that you're right. And that's where a silent tragedy begins. Because the mind doesn't always tell the truth. Often it tells stories. Stories that feel real but aren't. It creates explanations that sound convincing but are incomplete. It manufactures fears that have no real existence. And it builds invisible traps that keep people stuck for years, without ever realizing they're trapped. Imagine a traveler entering a massive labyrinth. At every turn, he's searching sincerely for the way out. He's trying. He's moving. He's doing everything he can. But there's one problem. The map in his hands is wrong. And once the map is wrong, it doesn't matter how fast he runs. Every step only takes him deeper into confusion, not closer to the destination. And that's exactly what happens in life. The problem is rarely a lack of effort. The problem is the map, the wrong assumptions, the wrong mental framework, the wrong interpretation of reality. And those are what we call mental traps. Invisible chains, the kind no one can see from the outside, yet powerful enough to limit an entire life. What's fascinating is that most of these traps are so common that nearly everyone falls into them. And the most dangerous part, most people never realize it. The ancient Stoics made a profound observation. They believed that people are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the meaning they assign to those events. Think about that for a moment. Two people can experience the exact same setback. One falls apart, the other becomes stronger. The event was identical. So what changed? The interpretation. One mind saw an ending. The other saw a lesson. One mind saw proof of weakness. The other saw an opportunity for growth. This is why some people treat failure as feedback, while others turn failure into an identity. Some people see criticism as information. Others experience it as a personal attack and carry that resentment for years. Same event, different outcome. Why? Because between reality and reaction, there is the mind, and the mind is not always objective. Modern behavioral psychology tells us something equally important. Human beings do not experience reality directly. We experience it through filters, through past experiences, through fear, through desire, through ego, through old emotional wounds. And sometimes those filters distort reality so dramatically that a person becomes their own greatest obstacle. This is self-sabotage, the quiet act of standing in your own way without realizing you're the one creating the barrier. And maybe even right now, as you're listening to this, there is a mental trap operating beneath your awareness, a hidden pattern silently limiting your growth, your happiness, your income, your relationships, your confidence, your future. But before we expose these dangerous psychological traps, there's a question you need to answer. If every thought in your head isn't true, then what should you trust? If your mind can mislead you, where does reality actually exist? And if your greatest weakness is hidden inside your own thinking, would you even recognize it? Because the first mental trap is so common, so deeply woven into everyday life, that millions of people spend their entire lives trapped inside it, never questioning it, never escaping it, never realizing that they aren't seeing reality at all. They're only seeing the story they've been telling themselves. Take a quiet moment and observe your own mind. If you pay close enough attention, you'll notice something strange whenever an event happens. You don't experience reality first. You create a story first. Then you believe the story. And finally, you react as if the story were true. This is the first mental trap. Trap no. 1, the story trap. I'm not seeing reality. I'm seeing the story I've created about reality. A friend doesn't reply to your text. What's the actual fact? Only this: they didn't respond. That's it. But within minutes, the mind begins writing a script. Maybe they're upset with me. Maybe they don't value me. Maybe I'm not important. Maybe I said something wrong. Do you see what happened? The event was simple, but the mind built an entire movie around it. And what's remarkable is that most people spend their entire lives trapped inside that movie. In psychology, this is known as narrative construction. The human mind is a meaning-making machine. It craves explanations. It wants certainty. It wants every blank space filled, every mystery solved, every unanswered question completed. And when information is missing, the mind doesn't wait. It invents the missing pieces itself. The problem isn't that the mind creates stories. The problem is that it mistakes those stories for reality. Think about some of the biggest decisions you've made in your life. How many times have you formed an opinion about someone before knowing the truth? How many times have you convinced yourself that you weren't capable enough? How many opportunities did you walk away from simply because you assumed you already knew the outcome? Maybe you never started the business because you were convinced people would laugh at you. Maybe you never pursued the dream because you decided you weren't talented enough. Maybe you never gave a relationship a chance because you'd already written the story of rejection before the first chapter even began. And here's the most dangerous part. Most of these stories are never tested. People act on them, build their lives around them, make decisions because of them, without ever stopping to ask whether they're true. Sometimes the difference between a prisoner and a free person is surprisingly small. One is trapped by walls. The other is trapped by thought. This is where Stoic philosophy offers an extraordinary lesson. The Stoics taught, do not immediately believe every impression that enters your mind. Observe, question it. Ask yourself, is this reality? Or is this my interpretation of reality? It sounds like a simple question, but it has the power to change an entire life. Because the moment you begin separating facts from interpretations, a new kind of strength emerges. The strength of self-mastery. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. If the mirror is covered in fog, your reflection becomes distorted. And if you mistake the fog for your face, the problem begins. This is exactly what most people do with their thoughts. They confuse their thoughts with their identity. I am a failure. I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed. But look closer. Those aren't facts. They're thoughts. And thoughts are not reality. For many people, this is the moment freedom begins. Because if every thought isn't true, then every fear isn't true either. Every doubt isn't true. Every negative interpretation isn't true. And slowly, the chains begin to loosen. The prison door begins to open. The mind starts reclaiming its power. So what can you do practically? Start with one simple habit. Whenever a negative thought appears, don't immediately merge with it. Don't instantly believe it. Instead, ask yourself, do I know the truth? Or am I creating a story? That single question can prevent hundreds of bad decisions, save you thousands of hours of unnecessary suffering, and perhaps change the entire direction of your life. But if stories were the only problem, escaping these mental traps would be easy. The real danger begins when the mind does something even more deceptive. It doesn't just create a story. It starts searching for evidence that proves the story is right. And that's the moment the second mental trap quietly pulls a curtain over your eyes. But this raises a strange question. If people create false stories in their minds, why don't they simply recognize the mistake and let it go? Why doesn't reality correct them? Why doesn't the truth reveal itself? Because the mind doesn't just create the story, it becomes the story's attorney. It begins defending it, protecting it, arguing for it. And that brings us to the second mental trap. Trap number 2, confirmation bias. I'm not searching for the truth. I'm searching for evidence that I'm right. Imagine someone who deeply believes they're a failure. What happens next? They overlook their accomplishments. They dismiss their victories. They minimize every sign of progress. But one mistake, just one mistake, suddenly becomes proof. They say, "See, I knew it." But did they actually discover the truth? No, they simply noticed the evidence that supported a belief they already had. This is confirmation bias, one of the most powerful and dangerous weaknesses of the human mind. Psychology shows us that the brain doesn't process information objectively. It filters, selects, prioritizes. It naturally seeks evidence that confirms what it already believes. And anything that challenges those beliefs often gets ignored, rejected, or explained away. That's why two people can witness the exact same reality and walk away with completely different conclusions, because they're not really seeing reality. They're seeing reality through their filters. Think about your own life. If you believe the world is unfair, you'll find examples of unfairness everywhere. If you believe people can't be trusted, you'll notice every betrayal and overlook every act of loyalty. If you believe you're weak, your attention will lock onto every flaw, every failure, every moment of insecurity. But if you believe growth is possible, you'll begin finding opportunities hidden inside challenges, lessons inside setbacks, possibilities inside obstacles. This is why two people can live under nearly identical circumstances and end up living entirely different lives. The difference isn't the environment. The difference is what their minds are trained to see. And here's something even deeper. You do not become what you think. You become what you repeatedly accept as true. And then you organize your behavior around that truth. A young man tells himself, "I'm not good at public speaking." Because he believes it, he avoids speaking opportunities. He practices less. He stays silent more often. And over time, he never develops the skill. Then he points to the outcome and says, "See, I was right all along." But he wasn't right. He simply created the result he expected. This is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind writes a prediction. Behavior makes the prediction come true. And then the mind mistakes the outcome for proof. This trap doesn't just damage careers. It destroys relationships. It buries dreams. It erodes confidence. And in some cases, it quietly limits an entire life. The Stoics practiced something remarkable. Whenever they became convinced of something, they would immediately ask themselves, "What if I'm wrong?" Such a simple question, yet so few people ask it. Because intelligence is not the ability to always be correct. True intelligence is the ability to recognize when you're not. Most people spend their lives collecting information. Very few spend their lives challenging their assumptions. And the person who never questions their beliefs eventually becomes imprisoned by them. So here's a practical exercise. The next time you reach a conclusion, pause and ask, what evidence exists against this belief? If you think you're a failure, ask yourself, when have I succeeded? If you think nobody values you, ask, who in my life genuinely appreciates me? If you think something is impossible, ask, who has already done it? These questions begin breaking the filters. They crack open the walls of perception. And for the first time, reality starts becoming visible again. But even then, a new problem appears. Let's say you finally see the truth. You gather better information. You realize your old beliefs were wrong. And yet, many people still refuse to change. Why? Because sometimes people aren't afraid of the truth. They're afraid of loss. They're afraid of giving something up. They're afraid of leaving behind what feels familiar. And that fear creates the next mental trap. A trap so powerful that it convinces people to hold onto a life that no longer serves them, simply because they're terrified of letting it go. This is one of the strangest contradictions in human nature. People want success. They want growth. They want a better life. But when a real opportunity for change finally appears, they hesitate. They retreat. They stay exactly where they are. And sometimes, they personally close the very door that could have led them into an entirely new future. Why? Because to the human mind, the pain of losing feels stronger than the pleasure of gaining. And that brings us to the third mental trap. Trap number 3, loss aversion. I'm more afraid of losing than I am excited about winning. Imagine you're given 2 choices. In the first scenario, you have a chance to gain $100. In the second, you risk losing $100 that already belongs to you. Logically, the amount is identical, but emotionally, your brain doesn't treat them the same. Research in behavioral economics has revealed something remarkable. The pain of loss is often felt far more intensely than the joy of an equivalent gain. In other words, losing $100 hurts much more than gaining $100 feels good. And this is exactly where millions of people unknowingly stop their own progress. They never start the business because they're afraid of losing money. They never learn the skill because they're afraid of failing. They never pursue the relationship because they're afraid of rejection. They never leave the job that's slowly draining the life out of them because uncertainty feels more frightening than dissatisfaction. The future may contain possibility, but possibility comes wrapped in risk, and the mind would often rather tolerate familiar pain than face unfamiliar uncertainty. That's why so many people spend years in situations that make them miserable, not because they enjoy them, but because they know them. The suffering is familiar. The limitations are predictable. The cage has become comfortable. Human beings do not always choose freedom. Sometimes, they choose familiar imprisonment. Picture a bird that has spent its entire life inside a cage. One day the door swings open. The sky is waiting. The horizon stretches endlessly beyond the bars. Yet the bird refuses to fly, because the cage may be limiting, but it feels safe. And in many ways, human beings are no different. Many people never reach their true potential because they fear losing the identity they've become attached to. What if I fail? What if people laugh at me? What if everything goes wrong? What if I lose the comfortable life I already have? These questions sound rational, but often they aren't reflections of reality. They're reflections of fear. They're the voice of an ancient survival system designed to protect us from danger. A system that once kept our ancestors alive, but in the modern world, often stands directly in the way of growth. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think about that. Most of the losses we fear have not happened. Most of the disasters we anticipate exist only inside the theater of the mind. And yet people spend years avoiding possibilities because they're trying to protect themselves from outcomes that may never arrive. Which raises an uncomfortable question. How many dreams in your life didn't die because of failure, but because of the fear of failure? How many opportunities weren't actually dangerous until your mind convinced you they were? How much potential remains trapped inside you right now, simply because you're trying to avoid a possible loss? These are not easy questions, but hidden inside them is freedom. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you're facing a major decision, don't only ask, what happens if I fail? Ask something else. Ask, what happens if I never try? Where will I be 5 years from now if nothing changes? Because many people successfully avoid short-term losses, only to purchase long-term regret. And perhaps the greatest irony of all, when people look back on their lives, they rarely regret the risks they took. More often, They regret the roads they never traveled, the opportunities they never pursued, the dreams they abandoned before the journey even began. But there is an even deeper problem waiting beneath the surface. Sometimes people are not stopped by fear of loss. Sometimes they are stopped by something far more deceptive. They stop because they believe they already know enough. They believe they already understand. They believe they already see the truth. And that silent illusion has robbed countless intelligent people of growth, because the next mental trap is not born from ignorance. It's born from certainty, a false certainty that blinds people to everything they still have left to learn. This point, a strange truth begins to emerge. A person's growth is not always limited by what they don't know. Sometimes it's limited by what they believe they already know. Because the moment someone becomes convinced they understand everything they need to understand, they stop learning, and the moment learning stops, growth quietly stops with it. This is the fourth mental trap. Trap 4. The illusion of knowledge. I think I already know, so I stop looking for what I don't. Take a look around you. How many people seem to have an opinion on everything? How many speak with complete certainty about subjects they've barely studied? How many arrive at conclusions before they've investigated the facts? And perhaps the most important question of all, how many people truly understand the limits of their own understanding? Psychologists have observed something fascinating. The people who know the least about a subject often overestimate their competence, while those with genuine expertise tend to be far more aware of what they don't know. Because the deeper you go into any field, the more you realize how vast it really is. Imagine climbing a mountain. Someone standing at the base might believe they've already seen the landscape. But as they climb higher, new peaks begin appearing beyond the horizon. New valleys, new paths, new questions. The view expands, and with it, their awareness of how much remains unseen. Real knowledge often produces humility. Superficial knowledge often produces certainty. And certainty, when it hardens into arrogance, can become a form of blindness. A young person reads a few books, watches a handful of videos, learns a few impressive concepts, and suddenly begins to feel like they've figured life out. Then reality arrives, and reality refuses to follow the script they expected. They're shocked, confused, frustrated, not because they possessed deep understanding, but because they possessed the feeling of understanding. And those are two very different things. Many people don't fail because they know too little. They fail because they believe they know enough. That's what makes this trap so dangerous. It hides itself. A weak person can often recognize their weakness. Someone who lacks a skill can usually identify the gap. But how does a person discover their blind spots? If they've already convinced themselves they're complete. This is why some people remain in the same place for years. Their thinking doesn't evolve. Their results don't improve. Their lives don't expand. Because they've quietly closed the door to learning. The Stoics constantly reminded themselves of a simple truth. I may be wrong, not as an expression of weakness, but as an expression of strength, because the person who accepts the possibility of being wrong is the person most capable of finding what is right. Think about a cup that's already full. No matter how valuable the water is, nothing new can enter. The same is true of the mind. When it's overflowing with certainty, there is no room left for insight. Perhaps that's why life keeps teaching humility, again and again, through setbacks, through failures, through unexpected outcomes, through seasons that challenge everything we thought we knew, as if life itself is constantly reminding us that a learning mind continues to grow, while a closed mind slowly rusts from within. So here's a powerful practice. Once a week, ask yourself a difficult question. What am I absolutely certain about? And what if I'm wrong? At first, the question may feel uncomfortable because it challenges the ego. It threatens the identity you've built around being right. But it also opens a door that leads to intellectual freedom. Because growth does not begin with new information. Growth begins when old assumptions are questioned, when certainty loosens its grip, when curiosity becomes stronger than pride. But even this isn't the deepest trap. Let's assume you're willing to learn. You're open-minded. You can admit when you're wrong. You can accept reality as it is. And yet, many people still fail to transform their lives. Why? Because sometimes the problem isn't ignorance. Sometimes the problem isn't resistance. Sometimes the problem is that the mind becomes so obsessed with tomorrow that it loses its connection to today. It becomes trapped in future possibilities, future plans, future versions of itself. And while it dreams endlessly about where it's going, it forgets the only place where change can actually happen, the present moment. And that leads us to the next mental trap that keeps people endlessly busy, yet somehow leaves them standing exactly where they started. This may be one of the most beautiful and most dangerous abilities of the human mind. It can imagine the future. It can see things that do not yet exist. It can dream. It can plan. It can sketch the blueprint of an entirely new life. And that ability is one of the reasons human beings are different from every other creature on Earth. But when that ability grows unchecked, it stops being a gift. It becomes a prison. And that brings us to the fifth mental trap. Trap number 5, the tomorrow illusion. One day I'll change. Almost everyone carries a fictional character inside their mind. Future me, the person who will eventually become disciplined, the person who will wake up early, the person who will finally start working out, start reading, start building the business, start pursuing the dream, start becoming who they're meant to be. And the fascinating part is this, that one day rarely arrives, because the mind has outsourced change to the future, and the moment change gets pushed into tomorrow, today begins to feel unimportant. Psychologists call this temporal discounting, the tendency to value immediate comfort more than future rewards. The brain naturally assigns greater importance to present pleasure and less importance to long-term benefit. That's why watching another video feels easy, but reading a chapter feels difficult. That's why sleeping 5 extra minutes feels harmless, but getting out of bed feels hard. That's why today's comfort quietly defeats tomorrow's dream. And before you know it, years pass, seasons change, life moves forward. Yet somehow, nothing really changes. Picture this. You're standing on the shore of a vast ocean. In front of you sits a magnificent ship. Strong, beautiful, built for incredible journeys. But it isn't moving, not even an inch. Why? Because the anchor is still buried beneath the water. Many people live exactly like that ship. They have dreams. They have talent. They have opportunities. They have potential. But one small anchor keeps them frozen in place. I'll start tomorrow. It sounds innocent, almost harmless. Yet those 3 words have buried millions of dreams. Because life does not change tomorrow. Life changes through what happens today. Stoic wisdom offers a difficult but necessary truth. Time is not merely passing. Time is becoming your life. Every day, every hour, every moment, it is shaping the person you're becoming. Most people believe their life will change someday. But life is never transformed by someday. Life is transformed by the small decisions repeated daily. Your habits are your future. Your routines are your destiny in motion. The person you'll become next year is being built by the choices you're making right now. And perhaps that's why highly successful people think differently. They spend less time obsessing over the future and more time mastering the present, because they understand something most people miss. You have no control over tomorrow, but you do have influence over today. They focus less on outcomes and more on actions, less on dreams and more on systems. Because systems are the bridge between desire and reality. A dream without action is a wish. A system turns a wish into progress. So here's a simple but powerful practice. Whenever your mind says, "I'll start tomorrow," pause and ask yourself,
what's one small action I can take right now?
just one page, 1 minute, one phone call, one workout, one note, one step. Because momentum is born from small beginnings, while stagnation is born from delay. But now we arrive at perhaps the most important question of all. Let's say you've learned to see reality clearly. You've recognized your biases. You've overcome fear. You've remained open to learning. You've started taking action today instead of waiting for tomorrow. Then why do some people still never reach the life they're capable of living? Why do they still remain trapped? Is there one final chain? One final illusion? Yes, and it may be the most dangerous of them all. Because this chain does not exist in the outside world. It exists inside identity itself. Inside the image a person carries of who they are. The self they defend. The self they introduce to the world. The self they believe they've always been. But what if that identity, the one you've spent years protecting, was never truly you at all? Perhaps the greatest deception in life is not that the world lied to you. Perhaps the greatest deception is that you told yourself a story and then spent years trying to prove it was true. This is the sixth and final mental trap. Trap number 6 of the identity prison. This is just who I am. 4 simple words. Yet those 4 words have imprisoned the potential of millions. This is just who I am. I'm not disciplined. I'm not a leader. I'm not entrepreneurial. I'm not good at public speaking. People like me don't change. And slowly, these statements stop being opinions. They become identities. Psychology tells us that the image we hold of ourselves often shapes the behaviors we choose. Because the mind craves consistency, it wants your actions to match your self-image. If you believe you're lazy, your brain will unconsciously guide you toward behaviors that preserve that identity. If you believe you're weak, you'll make decisions that reinforce weakness. And if you believe you're capable, you'll continue moving forward even when the road becomes difficult. In other words, many people do not live according to reality. They live according to identity. And that is where the prison begins. Think about it. When a child enters the world, they have no labels. They don't know whether they're brave or fearful, talented or untalented, successful or unsuccessful. Those labels come later, sometimes from family, sometimes from society, sometimes from a teacher, sometimes from a single painful failure. And over time, the labels become accepted as truth. People stop seeing themselves as they are and begin seeing themselves through the narrow definition they've inherited. Imagine an eagle raised among chickens. Its entire life it's told that it cannot fly. So it scratches at the ground, stays close to the dirt, lives within the limits of the flock, never realizing that wings capable of touching the sky have been attached to its body from the beginning. Many people live exactly the same way. Their limitations do not exist in reality. Their limitations exist in belief. And the most fascinating part, they defend those limitations. When someone says, "You can do this," they immediately respond, "No, that's not me," as if they've become the guards of their own prison. The Stoics understood something powerful. Human nature is not fixed. Character can be shaped. Habits can be changed. Virtue can be cultivated. And if habits can change, identity can change too, which leads to a revolutionary idea. You are not your thoughts. You are not your past mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not even the story you've been repeating to yourself for years. You are a process, a becoming, a living, evolving person continually shaped by choices. someone capable of reinventing themselves again and again, one decision at a time. And perhaps that is the true meaning of freedom. Freedom from an outdated identity, freedom from a limiting story, freedom from inherited fears, freedom from the invisible walls you've mistaken for reality. And for the first time, seeing yourself not as you have been, but as you could become. Because the truth is, these 6 mental traps are not separate traps at all. They're links in the same chain. First, you create a story. Then you search for evidence that supports it. Then you cling to it because you're afraid of losing it. Then you convince yourself you already understand everything. Then you postpone change until tomorrow. And eventually, you turn all of it into an identity. And without realizing it, you spend your life inside a prison built from your own thinking. But today, perhaps a door has opened. Perhaps for the first time, you've stepped outside your thoughts long enough to observe them. Perhaps for the first time, you've realized that the problem was not always your circumstances. Sometimes, the problem was the lens through which you viewed those circumstances. Remember this, the mind is a remarkable servant, but a dangerous master. If you follow it blindly, it will keep leading you down the same roads you've always traveled. The same habits, the same fears, the same outcomes. But if you learn to observe it, question it, challenge its assumptions, recognize its traps, and consciously choose better thoughts and better actions, you can change the direction of your entire life. Not someday, now. Because your new life will not begin with a massive opportunity. It will not begin with perfect timing. It will not begin with some future version of yourself. It begins with awareness, a new perspective, a new question, a new decision, and perhaps it begins in this very moment. If this video helped you recognize some of the hidden traps operating inside your own mind, share this idea with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below. I'm starting to observe my mind. And if you want to continue exploring psychology, self-mastery, human behavior, and the deeper forces shaping our lives, subscribe and join us on the journey. Because sometimes, changing your life doesn't require new information. Sometimes, all it takes is a new way of seeing.